Hello, everybody, and welcome to Host Jockeys Unite. And tonight's show is going to be a good one. Tell us what have up on deck tonight, Jay.
Well, boys and girls, we're going to be looking into a fire that took place on December the 1st, 1958, called the name of the school was the Our Lady of the Angels, and it was in Chicago, Illinois. And it was a very tragic fire, and we'll delve into it here in just a minute. But before we get started, I owe everybody listening that watched the show on the mill fires that we've had here recently. I owe everybody an apology.
Now, a big one.
A huge one. Both fires were arson.
Yep, they were rolled as arson fires. Two
Yeah,
different people.
and they were not homeless. So I owe everybody an apology. But then there's a big but here, bigger than my butt.
It
The logic for the homeless people was there.
was solid. I'll give you that.
So again, everybody, I apologize. It was, like I said, it was arson, both fires, and it happens.
It does.
So, but fortunately, they were caught, and they're going to be spending a they're going to have a nice secluded vacation. Let's just say.
Right. And,
Uh,
and unfortunately, several of them were minors.
yeah, the first fire was the the lead arsonist, for lack of better words, was over 20 years old, and his accomplices was 14, 15, and 16. And the second fire, the Carolina Mill fire, the three that burnt that were two of them were 20 years old and one was 21 years old.
Right.
So again, I apologize.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens. But again, the logic was there.
Yep.
And you said yourself, the theory is solid.
Exactly.
Now, now, folks, before we get into this, I'm going to tell you right up front. I've got a head cold. Chris has had allergy things going on all day. So if we get to coughing or sneezing or gagging, just look over it. If it gets too bad for me, I'm going to hand it over to my son, who actually put this podcast together, as far as research and the notes and the whole 9 yards. Um, he put it together for us. He did a really good job on the research. Believe me, he did a really good job on the research. We could have had a 5-part mini series with as much research as he did. Um,
Right.
so I got to give my oldest boy, Buddy, got to give him props. He committed to do it, and he went over and beyond the call of duty. Believe me, he went over and beyond the call of duty. Um, but anyway, so I've been for the past day and a half. I've been pretty much living on these things right here. Want to be cough drops. See, so see, they're nasty tasting things, but anyway, we'll get through it somehow, shape, form, or fashion. So
Yep. Got to do what you got to do sometimes.
that's it. You got to roll with the punches.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get started, Chris, is anything exciting fire-wise happened down your way since our last show?
Not really. It's been kind of quiet.
Dun, dun,
Dun,
dun,
dun,
dun,
dun,
dun.
dun. So, not really a whole lot going on. My neck of the woods, to be honest with you.
That's good. I'm glad to hear. With the holidays coming up, this is the wrong time of the year to have it a tragedy. And speaking of tragedies, thoughts and prayers go out to the people in Clarksville, Tennessee, and in Hendersonville, Tennessee. They had two major tornadoes over the weekend and destroyed multiple houses. At last count, it was 6 deaths. Uh, so our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody involved there.
Yeah, we even had
So
some. We had some wind.
multiple injuries. It was just a horrific
Oh,
and tragic
right.
event that went on. So everybody keep them in their thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, we even had some wind from it that night that it happened. Here was like some storms and whatnot going on.
Yeah, we had a few storms roll through, but nothing like they. Uh,
No,
so I think the worst thing that happened here as far as wind damage is some newspaper blew out of the dumpster across the parking lot. So
yeah.
bunch of leaves on the ground. So, well, Chris, you about ready to get into this?
Let's do it.
Alrighty, folks. This is going to be a kind of a long one. Give you heads up, but there was a lot of information, and I cut out a lot of the information that wasn't super pertinent to the, uh, to what we needed. So just hang in there, and you'll learn a lot. Okay, a little bit of background on the school. Our Lady of the Angels was an elementary and middle school combining kindergarten through eighth grade classes. It was located at 909 North Avers Avenue in the Humboldt Park area of Chicago West Side on the northeast corner of West Iowa Street and North Avers Avenue. Our Lady of the Angels School was built in 1910. It was wood constructed with the brick facade, making it a Type 3 construction, and it was remodeled several times over the years. Now, keep that in mind. It was remodeled several times over the years, so that's going to become pertinent here shortly.
The question is, were they um, modifications notated, or
You trying to give a spoiler alert?
yeah, that's it. Spoiler alert.
Uh, we'll get into that in just a few minutes. Uh, it's that dreaded uh, G word that uh, seems to keep rearing its ugly head with some of these podcasts we're doing. Now, with the building being a Type 3 construction, which again is wooden brick, the inside of the structure was very, very combustible and vulnerable to burn very quickly and very easily. Um, the building, Chris, if you want to show the picture of the school, the overhead view with the buildings look yellow.
Yeah. Hold on, let me find it.
Okay.
Not that one. Keep on. I'm looking for it. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'll go ahead until you get it popped up. The building was a U-shaped constructed building with a base.
Actually, I've got a video on that. If you want to,
Okay.
let me go ahead and play that video.
Okay. That'll work.
Let me make sure it's not like super loud.
There was a large church, a small rectory, and a U-shaped building that formed the main part of the school. This was divided into a north wing built in 1910 and a south wing and adjoining annex built in 1939. In the middle of this horseshoe structure was a courtyard protected by a tall iron gate. Notably, the school had a raised basement. That is, a basement that was partially below ground and partially above. Basement rooms therefore benefited from windows and natural light, but the raised basement added to the overall height of the building, with each floor a half floor higher than it otherwise might have been.
Okay. So everybody's seen how the building was laid out. Um, so it was, like I said, it was U-shaped constructed, with the basement, like I said on the video, uh, being half undergrade, or underground, which made the first floor about 6 feet above grade, and the second floor was 15 feet above the first ceiling height, uh, which, if the half basement wasn't there, everything would be back like it should be. Ceiling heights were 9 feet in the basement, 14 feet in the first story, and 12 feet in the second story. The interior was finished with wood lath and plaster. The ceilings of all classrooms were finished with combustible cellulose fiber acoustical tiles cemented directly to the plaster. So it didn't have the little um, intersecting trusses, for lack of better words, that you see in normal acoustical tile ceilings. It was directly plastered or directly cemented to the plaster on the ceiling. It was also cemented to the ceilings of the first story corridors of the north wing of the annex. Throughout this building, there was wood interior trim in the form of door frames, transom frames, mop and coat hook boards. The furniture was constructed principally of wood, and in the second story of the north wing, there were pressed paperboard blackboards in the rooms, and a large amount of children's clothing was stored there because it was freezing cold outside, and they were hanging from the hooks along both sides of the main hallway.
I can see that there's already going to be a
Gross floor area of the basement, first and second floors of the entire building were approximately 12,000 square feet each. So it was a pretty good size there.
right.
Total gross floor area of the building itself was 36,000 square feet. In the north wing, each gross floor area was 6,400 square feet, which means divided up into the classroom areas. They were each 6,400 square feet. Total gross floor area of 19,200 square feet. Now, the basement on the north wing was occupied by a small chapel, the boiler room, and the girls' bathrooms. The first story contained 4 classrooms and toilets, and the second story, 6 classrooms. Now, here's where it kind of gets into um, part of the reason why there were so many deaths. The exits. There was 5 interior and 1 exterior stairway that was distributed throughout the north wing. From the 84-foot long main corridor in the second story of the north wing, 3 stairways led to lower floors and the street, 1 at the rear of the corridor and 2 at the front. The rear stairway, where the fire had started in the north wing, was enclosed on all 4 sides at the basement and first story levels by brick walls with a finish of wood lath and plaster on wood furring. Now, the second story level, the stairway was enclosed with the same material, but only on 3 sides. Now, we talk about one of the things we teach in school in doing public education is uh, fire drills, in school, home, wherever you work, whatnot.
Right, right.
Uh, this school did have fire drills, but let me read you this pinpoint here. The building exit code specifies fire exit drills rather than fire drills to emphasize the fact that they jeopardize life safety. In drills, the emphasis should be placed upon orderly, controlled exit rather than speed alone. Drill procedures should be sufficiently flexible so that it can be met so it can meet any emergency. For example, should a fire occur in or near a main exit, the children should be marched to another exit. All the super duper in-depth details on it are covered in the building fire exit code, NFPA. But it must be, now get this, it must be left up to the individual's school authority to work out their application to individualize school buildings with due consideration to the arrangement of the individual building, character of the school, population, and their factors. Okay, so what that's telling me is, um, let's say you have, like in the elementary school that I went to, we had a door that exited to the hallway, and we had another door that exited directly out into the schoolyard. Each classroom had that. Okay. Now, this school did not. They only had, like it said, 5. 2 street side, 1 and 3 yard side.
Yeah, that was before before they added
Pre-ordinance building. In 1949, the city of Chicago adopted a municipal code which incorporated all of the major features necessary for life safety from fire in the buildings, including enclosure of stairways in schools. However, important provisions of this code, including enclosure of exits, did not apply to the north wing of Our Lady of the Angels school. And I'll give you 3 guesses why.
grandfather clause.
Bingo. It gets worse. Let's see, other schools in existence when this code was adopted. In other words, the substandard exits in all but the annex, which was built in 1953, were of pre-ordinance vintage. Hence, the non-retroactive law, aka grandfather clause, did not apply. Why the annex stairs were not enclosed to comply with the ordinance is not known. Now, the building code or building exit code requires all stairways in school buildings to be enclosed so that in case of fire, the occupants can escape without worrying about any dangers from fire, smoke, fumes, and resulting panic, which we all know is going to happen. The stairways in the, let's just call it LOA, um, were open except the 2 in the front of the north wing. Now, these stairs were uh, enclosed at the second story level by substandard doors, which were blocked open at the time of the fire. So, in other words, they didn't have fire doors. It was just a regular, just a regular, you know, hollow core door for all we know. Um, which, yes, if they were shut, it would have held the fire back for a little bit, but it wouldn't have been like if it would have been had you had a true fire door there.
So there's a video here I got that's
Uh-huh.
talking about the grandfather clause. It actually goes into a little bit of how the fire traveled as well. Let me go ahead and play that for you.
Okay.
The building's 24 classrooms were spread across 2 wings, connected by an annex. Like many red brick schoolhouses built in the early 1900s, the interior was made of wood. Its floors, doors, and stairways polished to a gleaming perfection with flammable soaps and waxes.
We were so proud to see this varnished floors. Beautiful.
A fire inspector that October noted a second-floor stairwell lacked a fire door. Chicago's municipal code required protective devices like fully enclosed stairways and sprinkler systems. But the code did not apply to schools built before 1949. So Our Lady of the Angels was exempt from adopting improved safety measures.
And there you have it.
Yep. And if you look at if you go back and look at the end of the video that you just showed, you'll see they're showing a piece of paper. That was uh, the final report from the fire inspectors from the fire department. And if you notice, underlined in red, no violations
Ancients.
found.
Right, because of the grandfather clause.
Exactly.
And that's the
That
only reason.
clause
Yeah.
has killed more people than, as my grandma used to say, than Jimmy Carter's got liver pills.
Right.
So, but now it would have been fairly simple and inexpensive to enclose all these stairways properly. If it had been if it had been done, 93 lives lost in this fire could have been spared.
Mm-hmm.
Now the exit width from the second story of this building were sufficient to permit 570 people to reach the ground in 1 minute and 20 seconds. Now, according to exit capacity requirements set forth in the building exit codes and elsewhere, it is estimated that there were 610 people on the second floor of the building when the fire occurred. Now that's quite a bit. I know it don't seem like much, but when you're thinking of panic situation, fire about to eat your ass up, that's a substantial increase in people on the second floor than the exit capacity could hold.
Right.
So now a closer examination of the distribution of exit capacity showed a contrast between the exit provisions for the north wing as opposed to those for the rest of the building. Now, bear in mind, uh, the north wing where the fire took place was built in 1910. The annex that joined the two buildings and the south wing were built in 1939. Okay, so keep that in mind also.
Right.
Now, in the north wing, the seven units, or the seven exits, were more than adequate in capacity to handle the 329 people on the second floor in the annex. And the south wing, however, there was only two exits to accommodate the 281 people believed to be on the second floor of these two sections. Two exits are adequate to evacuate only 150 people in a minute and 20 seconds. The inability of the two exits to handle the 281 people in the prescribed time was demonstrated by the fact that the average time for the evacuation of the second floor in 8 exit drills in 1958 were slightly more than the 3 minutes, was slightly more than 3 minutes. Now, here's the thing, 1958, okay, we're talking a year's difference, right?
Right.
They had 8 fire drills in 1958. Great. Children grow. Teachers grow, unfortunately, more outward than up. Um, what might have worked in 1958 might not work in 1959. You see what
Right.
I'm saying?
Exactly. Exactly. 100%.
You still with me, Chris?
I'm here.
Hello?
I'm here. You're
Can you
here.
hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Looks like we're having some technical
Can you
difficulties
hear
here.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me at all.
Okay, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. I'm sorry, folks. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, I can't hear you.
I don't know why you can't hear me.
Okay.
Can you hear me now? Better?
The wonders of modern technology, folks. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Better?
I'm gonna go ahead and keep rolling here. Um, as demonstrated by the loss of life in the North Wing, however, adequate exit capacity is not the only consideration here, or even the most important consideration when evaluating the adequacy of exits. That's it's not the most important considerations. Of primary importance is the enclosure of the exits to assure that the ways out of the building will be free of smoke, heat, uh, actual flame contact when needed. Now, the floors every day was polished with petroleum-based waxes. That when it burns, it puts off thick, black, oily, tarry, peanut butter thick smoke. Chris, if you can bring that video up of uh, with the smoke conditions coming out the windows.
Sure. Hold on. I'm trying to find it. There's an overhead picture of it that you can see for now.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Building life.
So you can see, folks, the how thick the smoke was from an aerial view of it.
Right. For some reason, I can't find that video that had
Okay.
the. I can find it. It's just going to take me a minute to load it in. So keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on 10-4. All right, folks. The I mean, like I said in the previous video, they were proud of how nice and shiny the everything looked. Being polished with it and everything, but you know, within reason. Come on, folks. I'm sure back during this time, all the waxes and everything were petroleum based, and I'm sure that they still are to an extent today. But when he finds that video, you'll see what I'm talking about as far as the thick peanut, almost like peanut butter smoke. Um, Now, the fire itself, on December the 1st, 1958, the fire began in the basement of the older North Wing between 2 and 2:20 p.m. Ignition took place in a cardboard trash barrel located a few feet from the northeast stairwell and filling it with light gray smoke that would later become thick and black as other combustibles became involved. At the same time, the fire began sending superheated air and gases into an open pipe chase very near the source of the fire. The pipe chase made a uninterrupted conduit up to the cockloft above the second floor classrooms. The smoke began to fill the second floor corridor, but remained unnoticed for a few minutes. Now, the fire was primarily confined to the second floor of the north wing. The north wing was part of a two-story structure um, that wing originally consisted of a first floor church and a second floor school. But the entire Excuse me. But the entire building became a school with a new, much larger church was opened in 1939. Now, about the same time, uh, a window at the front of the stairwell uh, had shattered due to the extreme heat, giving the smoldering fire a new oxygen supply. Now, this burst of heat also ignited a 30-inch by 24-foot of material described by the fire chief in his report as tarred building paper, stored within the area, which, along with the petroleum-based floor waxes, caused the thick black oily smoke that was believed to
Uh,
be responsible. Go ahead.
I found it now.
Okay, go ahead and play it.
All right. Yeah, as you can see, it's just ugly, thick peanut butter, like you said.
Yeah. Uh, Kind of reminds me of the movie Backdraft when um, Kurt Russell's character gets out of the engine and says, "Yeah, this is going to taste like crap."
Right?
But now they believe that the thick smoke was responsible for many of the smoke inhalation deaths in the building. Uh, it's kind of a no-brainer, but it was in the NFPA report. The wooden staircase burst into flames and, acting like a chimney, sent hot gases, fire, and this thick black smoke swirling up the stairwell. Now, at approximately the same time, school janitor James Raymond saw a red glow through the window. Now, pay attention to this part. James Raymond saw a red glow through a window while walking by the building. After running to the basement furnace room, he got a good view of the fire through the door that led into the stairwell. After instructing two boys who were emptying trash baskets in the boiler room to leave the area, Raymond rushed to the rectory and asked the housekeeper to call the fire department. He then ran back to the school to begin evacuation via the fire escapes. The two boys, meanwhile, returned to their classroom and warned their teacher, which prompted her and another teacher to lead their students out of the classroom in the annex area of the second floor. Now, here's the part that really irks me. The teachers had looked in vain for the school principal before acting on their own to vacate the school. Now, it was their agreed upon SOP that if there was a fire in the school, before you done anything, to go tell the principal, and the principal would call the fire department. That's a waste of time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um, Now, unknown to the two teachers, the principal was in the other wing of the school covering a class for an absent teacher. Um, as the teachers, as they left the building, the teacher pulled the fire alarm box, but the alarms did not ring. Several minutes after leaving her students in the church, she returned to the school to attempt to activate the fire alarm again. And this time the alarm rang inside the school, but it was not automatically connected to the fire department. And guess what? You know the pretty little red boxes that hang on the phone poles uh, that you used to see all over the place. Well,
Oh, you mean box alarms?
uh huh.
Yeah.
Well, by law, uh, there was supposed to be one right in front of the school, and guess what? They did not have.
One in front of the school.
Mm-hmm. You got it.
So
It was actually like 2 or 3 blocks further down the road from the school.
so while we're at this point, I've got a video of the actual fire flow. like you were
Okay.
talking about how it went up the stairs and whatnot. So I'm going to play this video that demonstrates the actual fire flow.
Okay.
And it also will illustrate how later on the 2 or 3 of the classrooms were cut, their point of egress was cut off, and the only way to get out was through the window. So here's that video.
Okay.
The fire had burned undetected for 20 minutes, billowing up stairwell, feeding off wooden floors, walls, and ceiling tiles.
The fire is a monster that seeks oxygen. And when it got up to that second floor and there was no fire door, it just raged.
Smoke, heat, fire, and toxic gases consumed the hallway outside second-floor classrooms of the North Wing, where more than 300 students were finishing their day. Evacuation routes that teachers and students had practiced using during fire drills were impassable. Heat shattered glass transoms above classroom doors.
So there's the demonstration of how, or an illustration.
So there you
of,
see it, folks.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that sticks out in my mind when that guy was talking about the fire was a monster, it takes me back again to the movie Backdraft, where they said that fire is a living, breathing thing. It takes the exact same things that we need to survive. It takes oxygen.
Food.
It takes fuel, which for us would be, what we buy at the grocery store. For a fire, it's, wood, paper, plastic, whatever. And heat. We all need to have heat to stay alive during the wintertime. And so it's, fire takes the same exact things to live as it does us. So it is, in my feeble old mind, it's a living, breathing thing. So now, by the time that the fire alarm was finally sounded, the students and teachers in the North Wing classrooms on the second floor were essentially trapped, as you've seen in the video. Um, Whether they knew about the fire or not, they were trapped. Uh, Despite the janitor's visit to the rectory soon after 2:30 p.m., to spread the word about the fire, there was an unexplained delay before the first telephone call from the rectory reached the fire department. It was at 2:42 p.m. That's a 12-minute gap.
Right.
1 minute later, a second telephone call was received from Barbara Glowicki, the owner of the candy store on the alley along the North Wing. Glowicki had noticed flames in the northeast stairwell after passing motorists entered her store and asked if a public phone was available to call the fire department. Now, the evacuation, the first floor landing was heavily equipped with a heavy wooden door, fire door, which effectively blocked the fire and heat from entering the first floor hallway. However, the northeast stairwell landing on the second floor had no fire blocking door, no fire doors whatsoever. As a result, there was no barrier to prevent the spread of the fire, smoke, and heat through the second floor hallway. The west stairwell landing on the second floor had two substandard corridor doors with glass panes propped open, possibly by a teacher who nobody knows, at the time of the fire. This caused further drafts of air and additional oxygen supply to feed the fire. Now, the two other doors were chained open when they should have been shut. These doors were at the first and second floor levels. leading into the annex. The upper door was quickly closed, but the lower one remained open throughout the fire. As the fire consumed the northeast stairwell, pipe chase running from the basement to the clock vault above the second floor vault ceiling had been feeding superheated gases for quite some time on a direct route to the attic. The building's old roof had been recoated numerous times, and the tar had become very thick up top. Consequently, the heat of the fire was not able to burn quickly through the roof. If it had, it would have opened up a hole, basically self-vented itself, that would have served to vent such much of the smoke and gases. Eventually, as the temperatures continued to rise, the enclosed space of the wood and the wooden cockloft itself flashed over. The fire then swept down through the hallway ceilings, ventilation grates into the second floor corridor as it flashed through the cockloft above the classrooms. Glass transom windows above the doors of each classroom broke as the heat intensified,
which we
allowing superheated gases and thick black smoke in the hallway
saw in the video.
to enter into the classrooms. Now, by the time the students and their teachers in the second floor classrooms realized the danger, and the occupants of several of the rooms until that moment did not realize the danger, their sole escape route into the hallway was impassable. The second floor of the north wing was a perfect fire trap for 329 children and 5 teaching nuns. The only remaining means to escape was to jump from the second story window to the concrete or crushed rock 25 feet below, or to wait for the fire department to rescue them. Um, Hang on a second, let me get a swallow my drink here. Um, Now, recognizing the mess that they were in, some of the nuns encouraged the children to sit at their desks or gather in a semicircle and pray. But smoke, heat, and flames quickly forced them to the windows. One of the nuns, Sister Davidus Divine, ordered her students in room 209 to place books and furniture in front of her classroom doors to help slow the entry of the smoke and the flames until the fire department arrived. I understand being panicked. I understand doing what you think is right, but putting flammable stuff in the door that there's a major fire burning on the other side of this
No, no.
don't really make any sense to me. But anyway, out of the 55 students in that room, 8 escaped with injuries, and 2 passed away.
So on that,
Now, the fire department units, they were arrived within 4 minutes of finally being called. But by then, the fire had been burning unchecked for possibly as long as 40 minutes and was really totally out of control. The fire, okay, be finding the 2 pictures that I sent you the last 2 pictures, because this is where they're going to come in handy.
was that the
The fire
exterior
department
picture?
was initially hampered because they had been incorrectly directed to the rectory address around the corner at 3808 West Iowa Street. Valuable minutes were then lost repositioning the fire trucks and hose lines. Now, additional firefighting equipment was summoned rapidly as the fire situation was quickly upgraded to a 5 alarm. All available equipment and units in the city in 1959. Now, the National Fire Protection Association report on the blaze exonerated the rapid response of the Chicago Fire Department and its initial priority to rescue pupils rather than merely fight the fire. Uh, you got the those two pictures ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, which one do you want first?
The overhead, where the buildings are yellow.
Okay.
All right, now the waiting for it to pop up on my. Okay, here we go. Okay, we all see the horseshoe school area. Okay, that's we'll call that the there's a street going down the front of it. We'll say that's side A. All right, right in the middle, that kind of for lack of better words, lightning bolt shaped building is the rectory, and the big building on the far right uh, is the church building itself. Now, here's my thing. Okay, now swap to the other picture. So
Hold on. It's here.
I know
Just trying to figure out.
wonders of modern technology.
Okay.
All right, now this picture is looking at the fire from I'm going to call the AD corner. Okay, it's kind of set up like you're looking into the horseshoe of the school. If you look on the D side, you'll see the south wing of the school, and then you'll see where the brick turns a different color, turns the darker red or black or whatever they had it painted at the time, is the rectory. And then on the far end is, of course, the church. Now, looking at this picture, you have fire department units pulling up, pulling hoses, and going into a building that's on fire that's blatantly in this picture. You cannot see anything that would even remotely convince me that that building is on fire. To where all they had to do was walk around the corner, and there's where the fire was.
Right. On the Bravo side.
Exactly.
The Bravo Charlie side.
Exactly. Now, I don't know why. I mean, I know that in 1958, when this fire took place, there was no such thing as doing a 360 walk around. It wasn't it wasn't even thought of at the time. If it had been, then the first arriving units do the 360 say that, and they could say, "Hey, this ain't it. It's around the corner." But even still, just looking at it, the only thing that I can even remotely say that they had any indication that there might be a fire in that building was, remember the yellow picture? There was two alleyways that went up on either side of the rectory, and the only thing that I can think of was smoke was coming out the alleyway. See, right there, right in the middle. There's two alleyways um, that's in between the buildings. The only thing I can think of was smoke was coming up at one alleyway and coming out to make it look like um, the building was on fire. But going back to the black and white picture, if that was the case, why isn't it doing it now? And the smoke, if you've noticed the direction of the smoke, is heading uh,
Charlie side.
to the Charlie side of the building, and it's not even coming across the top of the rectory. So, I mean, I don't understand what the fire department's thinking was here.
Right.
Uh, you know, they pull up. There's no sign of fire here, but walk around the corner. It's like hell and damnation around the corner.
Well, you had mentioned before about a 360, and even if they did have that as a practice back then, can you imagine how long it would take to do a 360 if you walked it on a building that size? It would take forever.
Well, understand, but in the same respect, when you pulling up on in your engine, what do? You get a view from it from three sides.
Right. Exactly.
So you would only technically have one side to walk.
True. True.
So, but this is, this folks. This is another case of uh, because of the SOPs and everything back then versus today. When they finally found where the fire was, they had to break down their hoses and tote it around the corner and redeploy everything.
Well,
They,
not only that, but if you look in between, we could put that back up there. If you look in between the two buildings there in the horseshoe,
mm-hmm.
right there on the outside of the horseshoe of that building was a big iron gate that was locked and nobody could get in, so they couldn't even make entry there.
Well, you know how they finally got that gate down.
No,
You remember the running joke me and you have when people get in the way, they use that great big bumper in the front of the fire truck.
Oh yeah.
They hit it with the fire truck and knocked it down.
Oh okay.
So, but this is my thing since I caught it, right before I sent you these pictures. If you know, according to the black and white picture, there was nothing going on at that rectory to make me even think that there was a fire in there. Versus, on the alpha side where, like I said, hell and damnation was burning. So that to me they dropped the ball there.
Yeah, they did.
But then again, if you really want to get technical about it, I'm sitting here and basically armchair quarterbacking it. I'm going, which I try not to do, but looking at the pictures, I mean, you can't help but wonder, what they were thinking, what was going on.
Well, the thing about that is also that we sit here and you and I both agree on everything, but we sit there and we look at it from the perspective of 60 years later when tactics have changed and we've learned from, over 60 years, they did things differently back then.
Yeah. Back in the day when my pop was on the truck, you know, I wish he was still alive so we could bring him on the show and get his opinion on this.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. So now the south windows of the north wing overlook the small courtyard, like we just showed, that was surrounded by the school on three sides and a 7-foot iron picket fence on the fourth side facing Avers Avenue. Because of the earlier problems with vandalism, the gate had to be put in place, and it was routinely kept locked. The firefighters couldn't get ladders to the children that were on the courtyard side without first breaking through the gate. Uh, um, they spent it was estimated 2 minutes battering the gate with sledgehammers and a ladder before they managed to smash it by backing a fire truck into the gate. Now, here's another question. Didn't they have bolt cutters in 1958?
I'm pretty sure they did.
Could we
cut a lock off?
Yeah, can we cut a lock off, folks?
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Let's cut the lock, and it all goes back to try before you pry.
Exactly. And
so,
I mean, would this be considered that the Chicago Fire Department, one of the largest departments in the country, being ill-equipped at the time?
Could be.
So, I mean, I don't want to point fingers, but at this point in time, now the lock gate delayed the rescue of rooms 209 and 211. Firefighters began rescuing children from the second floor windows, but the nightmarish and hellish conditions in some of the classroom had already become unbearable. Uh, Children were stumbling and crawling and fighting their way to the windows, trying to breathe and escape the fire. Many of them jumped or fell and were pushed out of the windows before firefighters on the ladders could reach them. But some children had jumped with their hair and their clothes on fire. Some died later as a result of the fall, and several more were seriously injured. Many of the smaller children, and this is what kind of tugs at my heartstrings, the smaller children were trapped behind frantic students at at the windows, and they couldn't get out. Some younger students who had managed to secure a spot at the window were then unable to climb over the high windowsills, or were pulled back by others frantically trying to scramble out. The temperature continued to increase inside the fire, and the fire grew more and more until a flashover occurred in the hallway and several of the classrooms, and it was that took place at approximately 2:55. The firefighters struggled desperately to pull the children and the nuns from the windows, as those classrooms, partially filled with screaming children, exploded from the flashover. Firefighters noticed that the white shirts of the children in the windows had changed colors from white to brown. Shortly after this flashover, a wide portion of the school's roof collapsed over rooms 208, 209, and part of 210. And the massive downward rush of heat likely killed several other of the students and their teachers in rooms 208 and 210 instantly. Which, if I'm going to go something like that, um, I don't want to burn.
No.
I've been burnt. I know what it feels like. Let the smoke take me, and and then after I'm gone, if the fire gets to me, so be it. But initial, I don't want to burn. Uh, let's see. Room 209 lost only one child in the room itself, and she had been overcome by smoke conditions and smoke inhalation before the roof collapsed. Now, between the delayed discovery of and reporting of the blaze and misdirection of the response units to the wrong address, the firefighters arrived unfortunately, too late. Although they rescued more than 160 kids from the inferno, many of the students were carried out uh, already dead. Some of the bodies were so uh, badly charred that they actually broke into pieces while firefighters were trying to pick them up and place them in the body bags. In in room 212, none of the dead were burned. The children, being so vulnerable to the toxic smoke and superheated gases, as well as their teacher, all died from smoke inhalation. Uh, Now, the investigation of it. The
Before
cause
you
of the fire was never officially determined.
before you start that section,
Although in 1962, a boy who was a student at Our Lady of the Angels at the time of the fire confessed to starting the fire. And he had also set blazes or set fires in other buildings in the neighborhoods, apartments and things, whatnot. At the time of the fire, he was only 10 years old and in the fifth grade. A family court judge later concluded the evidence was insufficient to substantiate the confession.
hang on a second.
So, officially, the cause of the fire remains unknown. Now, it has been reported that there was kids smoking in the area of the origin of the fire. Some people blame the janitor. Um, but basically, when it all boils down to it, in 1959, The National Fire Protection Association's report on the blaze blamed civic authorities and the Archdiocese of Chicago for housing their quote. This is quoted, for housing their children in a fire trap, such as Our Lady of the Angels School. End quote.
Oh, you there? Hello.
The report noted that both the Chicago School Board and the Archdiocese of Chicago continue to allow some schools to be legally operated despite having inadequate fire safety standards. Although Our Lady of the Angels School had passed a routine fire inspection just a few weeks before the disaster, the school was not legally bound to comply with the 1958 safety codes due to what? The grandfather clause.
Claus.
In the 1949 standards, existing older schools, such as Our Lady of the Angels, were not required to retrofit safety devices that were required by code in all schools built after 1949. Now, a relief fund was set up for the distraught families to care for the injured children in the future years. The Chicago metropolitan area really rallied to provide support. Hollywood stars such as Jack Benny visited injured children in the hospitals. A city newspaper, the Chicago American, devoted its entire front page on December 5th, 1958, to photographs of the deceased students under the headline, "The NFPA is very grateful to give appreciation to Chief F.W. Kempf of the Chicago Fire Insurance Patrol, to Chicago Fire Commissioner R.J. Quinn and his staff, and to Mr. Elmer Riske of the Cook County Inspection Bureau, and to others in the Chicago area for their cooperation and assistance during the investigation." Do you have that, by chance, do you have the picture of the front page of the newspaper?
Not on here, no.
Okay, no worries.
But I do have a short clip about the investigation,
Okay,
which here it comes.
here it comes.
We took police crime lab photographs of the scene. We obtained physical evidence such as a step from the stairwell that led down into the area where the fire appeared to have started.
The investigation concluded without providing any real answers. But the National Fire Protection Association issued a scathing report 1 year later, accusing authorities of housing children in fire traps.
See, you thought I was kidding, didn't you?
Not me.
But yeah, it's kind of like, to me, that the investigation was a what's the word I'm looking for?
Kangaroo court? Sham?
Cover your butt thing.
Yeah, because the judge.
I mean, I might be thinking totally off base, but
Well, the judge actually kind of
I've lost
stuck.
your volume again.
Well, I'll say the judge actually.
But I'm just going to go ahead and keep rolling till your volume comes back.
Uh-huh.
The north wing where the fire had occurred had been built in 1910 and originally housed the church on the first floor and a paraschool classrooms on the second floor. It just kind of gets back into the little bit more of the, about the school. Now, conservative estimates place the total between 1,200 and 1,300 square foot of in the per floor, and it is known that there were 596 pupils and teachers in the north wing, of whom 329 were in the 6 second-story classrooms. Now, here's something else we're going to get in. I want to get a little touch base on the fire alarms. A manual operated fire alarm system is essential that in case of fire, all occupants will be confirmed immediately. And the usual arrangement is electrically operated alarm systems with conveniently arranged sending stations and gongs or other sounding devices used for fire alarm purposes only, loud enough to be heard in all parts of the building. In small schools, a hand-operated gong may be sufficient. Automatic fire detection systems are valuable in providing prompt notification of any incident or incipient fire. It is also utmost importance to have reliable facilities for calling the nearest municipal fire department. A standard fire alarm box should be mounted on or near the main entrance of the school. Uh, Manual and automatic building fire alarm systems should be arranged to operate this box and thereby notify the fire department. For installation details on fire alarm systems, you can see NFPA standard number 71, 72, and 73. Now, a lot of the documentaries I watched on this fire, the the fire department, or not the fire department, but the fire alarm system, there was only two uh, manual pull stations in the school. Both of these pull stations were on the south wing of the school, and they looked like light switches. They were not marked fire alarm. They weren't painted a different color. They looked like light switches. And remember from earlier, the principal was supposed to be the only one to pull or to activate said fire alarm system. And he was hard to find because he was filling in for a teacher who was absent.
Right, right.
So, I mean, that's just a right there another uh, cluster.
Exactly.
Now, the substandard condition of the manual fire alarm system in the school should be noted. The fire alarm sending switches were not readily accessible to most of the occupants of the building, and they were only two in number and were not distinguishable from ordinary electric light switches. Had it been readily identifiable, the fire alarm stations being distributed throughout the building, it's quite likely that at least one of the people who first noticed the smoke would have operated the building alarm system many, many minutes sooner. Um, Now, according to the present municipal code in Chicago and the recognized standard for the installation of public fire alarm boxes, all schools should have a fire alarm box at or near the entrance. Had a box been so located at Our Lady of the Angels, it's possible that the first alarms would have been transmitted to the fire department by a passerby at least or 2 minutes earlier. Furthermore, the box alarms would have resulted in response to a box alarm assignment on the first notification of fire. This would have brought three additional engine companies and one additional ladder company to the scene, 3 or 4 very critical minutes sooner. Um, but Now the exit code recommended that any building fire alarm system be arranged so that when operated to alert occupants of the building, it will simultaneously transmit alarms to the fire department. Automatic sprinkler systems and automatic detection should be arranged to operate building and fire department alarm systems simultaneously. Now, the Okay, this to me all starts back uh, from when 1939 when they built that annex and the South Wing,
Right, right.
which all the North Wing should have been upgraded to match the standards of the day, but it wasn't. I don't know if it was a lack of money or they just didn't want to, but it boils down to me is what's more important, the lives of the children that you're in charge of during the day, or new playground equipment.
Right, exactly.
And another little tidbit I found out during the research: the fire escape doors were locked. They couldn't get out the fire escape. They had to come have the doors unlocked. Now, I can understand the fact that the last person out of the building in the evening shut and locked the door, including the fire exits. But the first person in the building should unlock them before the students get there.
Exactly.
Another ball drop.
But that's on the part of the school itself, not the fire department.
Exactly. Now, don't get me wrong. The only thing that I'm really questioning, as far as the fire department is concerned, is you got this big column of billowing smoke coming out from the Bravo or from the Alpha Bravo side of the building, and you're going to a building where there's no sign of fire or anything. That's the only thing that I'm questioning, unless it was their SOP to go to where dispatch tells them, investigate it, and make sure before they went around the block. But then again, 360s wasn't even thought of then. So this just goes to show you the advances from back in the day to today's standards. So, uh, again, this was a tragedy that, you know, if there was no such thing as the grandfather clause or anything like that, and they were made by law to upgrade like you're supposed to do today, this probably wouldn't have happened. No sprinklers in the building. I mean, if y'all haven't noticed, there's a reoccurring theme here. No
Uh,
sprinklers, grandfather clause,
and locked
no,
doors.
and locked doors. And this one, there's a new monkey wrench is thrown in it. No automatic alarm system.
Right.
So it just, like I said, it just goes to show you the progress that's been made as far as fire safety. And unfortunately, it's like me and Buddy were talking about earlier this evening. It's like I've always said fire service is reactive and instead of being
Proactive.
proactive.
Right.
And it's like a trial and error thing. Well, we tried this. This didn't work. A bunch of people died. We're sorry. Let's try this next time. And by then, it's too late.
Exactly. You have 95
I
people
mean,
dead now.
does that make any sense?
Nope, not a bit.
So, yeah, I lost your volume again.
Uh,
But anyhow, well, folks, that's going to do it for my part of the show.
um,
Unless Chris has got anything he wants to touch on, you're gonna have to give me sign language because I can't hear you.
so yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit now about the what happened after the fact, as far as with the church and the school. So later on, and I don't remember the dates, unfortunately, the school actually closed down due to lack of enrollment. To go back a little bit further than that, I'll show a little picture here. There was there was the collapse during the fire. After that, they bulldozed the school, which you can see here on this picture. You can see where the school was bulldozed, and they started construction. And they started construction on a new school, which I'm trying to find the picture here. The new school that was built around in the 60s is when they opened the new school. And then after that, I want to say it was like 93 that the school closed because of lack of enrollment. But then they rebuilt after that. Well, after they put the new school up, they after the school closed, they changed their mission somewhat, and it's now more of a homeless, child services, food bank kind of thing like that. So here's a video that talks about what the church is doing now.
Our Lady of the Angels would rise from the ashes once more. The Archdiocese recruited Father Robert Lombardo to create a mission outreach to the needy in 2005. Today, the mission of Our Lady of the Angels distributes clothing, provides youth services, and runs food pantries serving more than 3,000 families a month.
My help? Have you been doing okay? Watch your step, honey.
We really believe that this is sacred ground because of the tragedy that took place. There's always new life. And so even though there was a tragedy, from that, good can still spring up.
Slowly but surely, Father Lombardo and a devoted team of Franciscans renovated the buildings of the former parish, including the church, which was rededicated in 2012.
So that's what the church is up to nowadays, helping the people with food and things like that. The school itself is pretty much closed down. They're not having a school anymore. Jay? Well, apparently he can't hear me, so I'm going to go ahead and close the show out. I'm going to close it with this little tribute video that I made. I'm going to close it with a tribute video that I made.
Okay, I've lost your volume again.
The day they became angels, they left us wondering why. Young souls joined God's departed, leaving no time for goodbye. And all that's left are memories of innocence and childhood dreams. As survivors, we choose to love beyond our pain. When the whole world stopped to watch our tears, with faith we heal through the years. Somehow a cloud of sadness still remains. The day they became angels, life seemed so unfair, left us feeling helpless as we offer up our prayers. Come together, we must let them know what happened 50 years ago will never be forgotten in our hearts. We have carried on and lived our lives, a reason why we all survive. gives us purpose to know who we are. Dawn eyes dormim, lux perpetua, luciana is, requiescant in pace, amen. Requiescant in pace.